Good morning and welcome. It's Valentine's Day now.
It's a beautiful Monday morning.
It's a beautiful Monday morning.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's the only angle you want to look
But it is a beautiful Monday morning, isn't it? It happens to be Monday, February the 14th.
It just happens to be February the 14th,
it's a beautiful Monday morning.
Popularly referred to as
a Monday
Day.
morning.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Well, yes, it is a beautiful Monday morning. And yes, it is Valentine's Day. You're welcome. I'm Kayode Okikuli.
From Abuja, good morning and happy Valentine's Day to you. I'm Maokwe Ogun-Yusuf.
Well, it has been confirmed.
You know what? I understand the whole economy and the whole feeling behind this. This is a day where all the planning, is unfolded. All the secrecy, the phone calls and the text message, they're unfolded. So yeah, have a great time, absolutely. But we'd like to begin in Lagos. Something played out over the weekend, and it's something we've seen time and again. And it's important for us to highlight this because this is a very, very important issue because it affects lives, livelihoods. And sadly, we've seen this take lives, dozens of lives last year. And this year, we're starting off on that note again. So I'd like you to take a listen to this woman. She's the vice president of the Building Collapse Prevention Guild. It's meant to prevent a building collapse. I'd like you to take a listen to what she said about the building that collapsed in Lagos over the weekend, and we'll be back.
I'm of the opinion, it's a personal opinion, that until the government makes up its mind that anybody that is found guilty is punished, we will continue like this. It's getting too much. The question is when we're having this thing, how many people are punished? When synagogue came down, I was a member of the committee. I was going with other people to the site. We did the investigation. We went to court. Report was written. What happened to that report? When that one in Ikoyi came down, I was on the field. We started the case. The case is still on. What happened? The one at Isaleko, what happened? As long as this thing comes around, and all we do is to bring bulldoze the place, but find how many casualties, write reports, and nothing comes out of the report, we will continue like this. And it's unfortunate the way we are losing life.
So that's Mrs. Okushagba Adekemi. And just listening to her, I felt pained and heartbroken, really, because I recall these building collapses. The fact that, we followed those stories, and the government put up committees and the rest. There were court cases over those building collapses, and yet nothing has happened. Fresh in our memories is that Ikoyi building collapse, which she talked about. And the government put out a committee. The committee did its work, submitted a report, a white paper meant to be released from that report. And so far, correct me if I'm wrong, I've not heard anything about that one. And I'd like the government to prove her wrong, at least with this one. Meaning 5 bodies recovered from that building collapse. And who knows what building is waiting to collapse next, God forbid. But God forbid, yes, but we also have to do what we need to do. We need to ensure that these things do not just happen. Lives are important. Lives have been lost. Families have been put in sorrow. Properties have been destroyed. Just imagine the sheer confusion going on there right now. So my plea today is that government, perhaps as a Valentine's gift to the people, will prove her wrong with the Ikoyi building and others, and ensure that justice is done and we don't keep seeing these buildings collapse in Lagos. That's my plea essentially this morning.
You see, Kayode, every time I have the privilege of talking about issues like this, my heart always goes to the Constitution, which is the ground norm of the nation. What is the primary responsibility of government? To provide security and welfare for the people. Essentially, government is supposed to love the people. That's my summary. And even if you look at the whole, the entire leadership spectrum, it's all infused with elements of love. I have read the Bible a few times, and I have seen that there are 16 characteristics of love. Every single one of them has one thing or the other to do with leadership. And so when we talk about leadership and people doing what needs to be done to ensure that people's lives are not lost unnecessarily, my heart goes back to love. So for the person who was told by government, who essentially was doing all it could to ensure that they love the people by saying, stop construction at this site, and the person continued, snuck back on site, and continued, and the person has been arrested. So we hear. Question. Then what? That's the next question that's going to come to anyone's mind, and we're just wondering what is going to happen after that. So while we are talking about, you know, that one that has happened in Lagos and what government needs to do, I'm pretty sure that Malcolm may want to speak to that as well. Some other people are doing things to show love for their people, like this lawmaker in Yobe. I'm pretty sure Malcolm would want to speak to that.
Well, yes, indeed, Ayo. It was quite a joy. It's so sad to see what has happened in Lagos, and we heard the collapse of that building. I think was on Friday. We had the collapse story, and then we saw the recovery efforts going on through Saturday, and then finally Sunday we heard that 5 bodies have been recovered. But while there's so much wrong with our society, sometimes, you know, it's just you know, when you see an effort to try and right the wrongs, or an effort to try and make a difference, because sometimes it can be so overwhelming. I mean, the problems are so many that you ask yourself, will my own effort make a difference? Will whatever it is I decide to do make a difference? And yes, we never have any hope sometimes in our lawmakers, but, you know, they're able to pull surprises sometimes. And I think that's the case of this lawmaker in Yobe State, where this community have not, well, I'm not even talking about community, I'm talking about local governments. Yes, a group of them, because it is, I think it spans almost its entire senatorial district. They haven't had water, portable water, in over 30 years. And almost all the water projects that they've ever tried to do, you know, haven't quite worked. But it looks like, you know, there is hope on the horizon with the sort of project that he's decided to undertake. It's very ambitious, but hopefully when it is done, it will not only supply water in 1 or 2 communities, it will supply water across local governments. And you have to ask, if a senator is doing this, you know, what has, you know, the combined efforts of local government chairmen? Interestingly, a few of them, I think 1 or 2 of them were tracked up in this report. What has been the effort of the state government? And we're still back at this point where we're talking about the basic amenities of life. We're talking about water, we're talking about shelter, we're talking about, you know, basic things. But water, we all know that there can be no life without water. And the people have had to migrate out of that community because of the water problems in that community. There are those who have lost their lives to diseases and illnesses because of the lack of water in that community. Really, what can you do if you don't have water? I mean, just think about it. You can't take your bath, you can't eat, you can cook. You can't do anything. We're not even talking about water for leisure. The people are not asking for a water park or swimming pool. They're asking for basic water to drink. So when you do see an effort in that regard to make a difference in something as life-changing as necessary as water, I think it is extremely important to highlight this. So while we, you know, ask government to buckle up and do more for its citizens, I wanted to say today, about being Valentine's Day, is One World Religion Day, because love is the language that almost all the religions have in common. It is the underlying theme in almost all of the religions that I know. There's love for God and love for yourself and fellow man. Oftentimes love for God and fellow man. But you're urged to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So it's just taken for granted that you already love yourself. The question is, how much are we showing this love in everything that we do to our neighbors? We think that because, you know, you're in government, government is nobody's business. So it's everybody's business and nobody's business. And so there's no way to show love there. But if you do think about how one action, one little action or inaction can impact or impart in the life of so many people, then perhaps our approach to things might be slightly different. It's good to see what is happening in Yobe State. Gentlemen.
Well, what you have said now, again, encapsulates one thing, and which is we see senators, we see governors, we see all lawmakers. Well, as you said, he's a lawmaker. His primary responsibilities are representation, oversight, and lawmaking, not executing. So if the executives haven't done this and the senator is doing it, perhaps that's a challenge. And then for those who are working with government in what I call the engine of government, in what ways do we demonstrate that we love the people when we do the things that we do? Monitoring activities to ensure that buildings don't collapse, ensuring that the Ministry of Water Resources in each state or local government does the needful. That's a demonstration of love or not that we are seeing on a daily.
And just to add, while I'm happy for the people, very happy indeed, because water is life, as you have said, I hope that there'll be a time when we don't, yes, I mean, it's something to rejoice over for the people, but I'm hoping there'll be a time where we'll just take these things for granted and just expect that they will happen, you know, without having to fast and pray for the basic amenities of life, really.
Okay.
But absolutely the way to go.
We'll take a short break now for the papers, just a few of them to see what you may have missed over the weekend. First pick this morning is Daily Independent, and it is talking about the CBN. What does it have? That's it right there. CBN may respond to pressure, tweak MPR twice this year. Just what does that mean? I'm not going to hold my breath. I just want to see how that impacts on the price of food items.
Oh, as I say, is it the everyday man, or the man in the street? Yeah, absolutely. That's what makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are those who will be wondering, okay, how does that affect the price of flour today? No, don't even wonder that.
Well, it does have effects. Maybe not very visible to some people, but hey, it all adds up.
Oh, I see. Right another picture you see on the front page. 2023 presidency. Why Tinubu's camp is accusing Osinbajo of betrayal. What does that mean, really? Those expecting VP to chicken out are in for a shocker. It's politics, right? Or is it just politics? Or there is more to it?
I'm sorry, I'm not intrigued by all of these. I'm sorry. I know it's intriguing for a lot. It's good, you know, play and all that, but it's not intriguing to me. It's not. I'm not personally, honestly.
We're a whole year away from the election.
No, it's understandable, but this particular one, you know, there are different blocks, there are different episodes to this season that we're watching.
Well, this season film, have you? Okay. Well, as things unfold, we'll see. I guess the convention of the party is not too far away.
Yeah, just a few days to go.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Right above the nameplate, FCT council polls. PDP's victory, a good omen, says, are you? And a number of other stories you'll find on the front page. FG accuses Twitter, Canada of double standard over truckers' protest. That's the Daily Independent this morning.
Well, speaking of dailies, next is Daily Trust. Take a look at what the paper has on its front page. It's 2023 as well, and you see moves to draft Emefiele thicken. Yeah. Might be new to you, but apparently this has been, building up, apparently, from the point of view of the Daily Trust. But take a look at the writers. Buhari's men pushing CBN governor. Group begins nationwide mobilization, but there's a quote saying he wouldn't go anywhere. Who's saying that? We find out. Don't distract him. It's coming from the Apex Bank. It's a page 5 read of the Daily Trust. And that convention of the APC makes its way to the front page as well. Sale of forms. I said sale of forms, oh my goodness. Sale of forms begins amidst zoning controversy. You know, for a moment I thought that was a name. Sale of forms, not sale. This should make the reels, actually.
Reminds me of what happened on Saturday. I had this guest, I don't know, I think maybe he's German or something. His name is Schmale. I'm like, okay, so, and he's not in the studio with me, so I couldn't ask before we came on board. So, what's your name? Is it Schmale or Schmale?
Oh, wow.
Well, I said I got it right, it's Schmale.
Oh, great. Well,
so maybe this is Sally.
These things happen. If there's a bloopers reel, I should make it to this one. But that's that one. By the way, I mean, the convention, yes, will throw up the leadership of the party, but still won't be quite clear on who will be the flag bearer of the APC. But perhaps we'll see the direction of the way things will go. That's why this is very important. And just one more for you this morning. Private Sector Alliance raises 100 billion naira to fight insecurity. I heard that announcement yesterday, and it was quite cheery. There's a page 22 read. There's sports on the back page. Liverpool closed gap on City. Spurs rocked by Wolves. Let's leave it there for the Daily Trust. Malcolm.
Well, let's take a look at the Abuja Inquirer, and you know that we had the polls here, the council polls here in the FCT, and that's what they're focusing largely on. FCT Council's poll, it's 50-50 for APC, PDP, AMAC. Well, AMAC is the central, is Abuja, you know, central Abuja itself. AMAC falls to opposition. Less than 10% of 1.3 million voted. So in case you're wondering what that is, that's less than 130,000 people, just in case you're wondering what that will be voted. Disability community decries poor preparation. You'll find details somewhere inside the pages of the paper. Page 3 will give you details. FCTA targets 100% IGR budget funding. Okay. Lie mocks Canada Twitter over anti-vax insurrectionists. It's on page 3. He did say he wasn't mocking them there, but that's how they've chosen to couch the headlines. So you might want to read details on page 3 of the paper. You have a number of other stories just underneath the nameplate. PERMSEC charges APP board on Abuja sanitary condition. JAM to commence 2022 UTME DE registration February 19. So do not stay too long in this Valentine's mode. Get ready for school if you know you're a student and you're going to be studying hard for the next UTME and direct entry exams. Let's leave it there for the Abuja Inquirer.
The Nigerian News Direct this morning has a story that, well, for me, was a little disturbing. Maybe not for those who are concerned. That's it right there on the front page. Fuel marketers petition. NIMASA Act backs freight charges payment in dollars. I was a little stunned by that. I thought this was Nigeria and not the United States of America or Canada. You know,
there'll be different angles to that one.
Well, really. Yes, I agree.
Justification might be quite tricky depending on where you're looking at it from, which is where you started from, really. Because, I mean, freight essentially means that it's something that is crossing borders, so... Okay. But hey, I'm not holding brief for anyone. I'm just saying, maybe, just maybe, there might be some sense in it.
I know, because, I mean, petroleum is an international product, denominated, internationally and all of that, but I'm just wondering... couldn't we make up our minds that this is how we want to do our thing?
So you prefer in Naira? So
that at least the Naira gets stronger. I mean, I don't know, maybe that makes any sense. I mean, I'm just
well, what do you think? Let us know. On Twitter, mail.
Because, I mean, I went to the, website of the NIMASA and I saw that indeed all those charges are denominated in dollars. So it's just a thought in my head. I hope there'll be answers to that. But that's the lead of the paper this morning. Remit 78 billion naira in 2 years to Federation accounts. Reduces piracy by 58.02%. Well, that's cheering news. It's the lead story of the paper this morning. And scarcity, normalcy returning to filling stations across Lagos. Again, cheering news. NCDMB to launch $50 million fund for oil industry manufacturing. What does that mean? You find the details on the inside pages of Nigerian News Direct today.
Well, the leadership is also counting down to the APC convention with this lead. Convention, APC in dilemma over, there you go, over governor's plot to impose chairman. So the writers say governors settle for Sani Musa as national chairman. Will resist any attempts to hijack party. Youth Forum tells governors. Party stakeholders write PMB urge president to single-handedly pick party chairman. Is that a thing? Is that, I mean, constitutional for the APC? Well, page 4 has more details, and you see APC PDP split FCT council chairmanship seat. You know, I saw on our station it said 3-3. So it was like a draw, you know. A very interesting one there. We'll definitely be dissecting that one for you. And, well, this is quite different from what you saw earlier on the fuel scarcity conversation. And it's on top of the nameplate. You see, no end to fuel scarcity as NUPENG mobilizes for nationwide strike. I imagine a lot of people say, you know, I reject that. Because this fuel scarcity has been a big headache for a lot of people. And I mean, thank your stars if you don't have to go through that. But if you had to stay in the queue in Lagos, then you know that this should definitely not continue. And of course, good news, troops, police kill scores of bandits, rescue 20 kidnapped victims in Niger. That's a leadership newspaper.
Well, I'm looking at The Guardian next, and you see the strike. Not again. Anxious Nigerians warn federal government ASU. Union extends meeting to announce decision today. Most lecturers support industrial action, says source. Parents, stakeholders appeal for restraint. Ex-minister seeks intervention of former union leaders. You find all the details on page 2. We're talking about Valentine's and valid Valentine's gift. You know, a keg, a 30-liter keg of petrol will not be out of it, you know, will not be out of the list in this season. If you know she has a car, he has a car, you know. If you're able to get your hands on one, hey, I don't know if they'll be selling in kegs, but if you're just able to, you never can know whose day you'll be making. Look at this. NNPC yet to withdraw dirty fuel as petrol queues linger. They did look far longer this morning. I've never seen them that long on my way to work this morning. Look at this. Stakeholders kick as National Assembly delays Nigerian Eagles takeoff over ARIC's 10.8 billion naira debt. So we're still talking about Nigeria Air. Well, details might be on page 3 of the paper. Staff sit at home before seeking political offices, Ohaneze tells Igbo politicians. And why federal government's Lagos megacity project failed. You might want to see details on page 27. Let's leave it there for The Guardian.
The Vanguard newspaper has this one. Bad fuel. Ipman, Dapmas, price war worsens. Find the details of that on the inside pages. Pump price rises to 180 naira per litre. Petrol supply to stations will soon normalize, according to the federal government, as technical other committees begin work. And right under that pie chart on the front page, strike, anxiety as ASU takes decision today. Well, it's very interesting what we just hope. Not again. But then, what else do we say? Mr. and Mrs. has this one. It's Valentine's Day, so hey. Mrs. tells Mr. I know a man who gave his wife a brand new car as Valentine gift. And Mr. backing Mrs. with his hands in his pocket tells her, why don't you find out if you can afford an extra car?
Okay. Okay. There you go.
That's the papers this morning. We're back now to take on the issues for the day. Please stay with us.
It is election day in the Federal Capital Territory as residents go to the polls to elect chairmen and councillors for the 6 area councils. 6 council chairmen and 62 councillors are expected to emerge from the process as 14 political parties and 472 candidates jostle for the votes of the 1,373,000 registered voters expected to participate in the exercise. In most polling units in Kuje, Buari and the Abuja Municipal Area Council, INEC officials arrive early with voting materials, but voting, which was scheduled to commence at 8 a.m., did not start due to some accreditation challenges.
Over thousands of people are here since morning, since 8 o'clock, waiting. But now, up to now, VUBA has not even catch up to even 200. If they are not prepared, why putting the date today and bringing materials that are not working, beavers or whatever they call it, have not been used before, and people will be seeing their name in the paper. If you have seen your name, why not go and vote? They say you must be captured, and the machine is not working.
I understand this situation is not only here in Kuje, it's across the entire FCT. So one begins to wonder whether it is deliberate or it is just a situation whereby the machine has become faulty. But so far, it's very peaceful. Nobody is fighting the other. That's one good thing about it. So now the problem is that of INEC now.
Notwithstanding the challenges, some of the key players in this election appeal to voters to be patient and peaceful.
There's an adage that says the patient don't eat the fattest bone. In everything in life you want to succeed, we have to be patient. So I strongly advise the voters to be patient so that they'll be able to exercise their rights to vote for the candidate of their choice.
I am here to say to all voters who have come out to vote for their candidates of their choice that let there be peaceful elections, free and fair elections.
At polling unit 001 in front of the headquarters of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, in Buari Area Council, voters wait under the scorching sun to cast their votes.
I can't vote. What is the problem? They're telling me that the machine is not working. You keep asking them, they're telling you that they are working on it, that they are working on it, their technical team is working on it. Is it that they cannot make replacement if it's not working? I don't understand. So many people have been here since the morning.
For somebody to sacrifice his or her time to come out here, how about they should be fair now? They should bring something that will help people. Okay, imagine the hot weather. We are still under it. Some people will come, some will go, some will come, some will go, which is very annoying.
At Amak, polling unit 036 Gariki erroneously received materials for polling unit 037 Gariki, which prompted an initial agitation from the voters. Meanwhile, it was a peaceful process in most polling units in Kuje, Buari and Amak, including polling unit 027, where the Gariki traditional ruler cast his vote.
Within a minute or 2 minutes, I have been able to be captured and have been able to go and vote the persons I want, which I have to say is a kudos to INEC.
The initial glitches recorded with the BVAS machines led to the extension of voting in most of the polling units across the 6 area councils. However, voting ended in some polling units at 4 p.m. as INEC officials count the ballots before the electorate. There are 68 constituencies made up of 6 area council chairmen and 62 councillors. A total of 14 out of 18 registered political parties nominated 110 candidates for chairmanship and vice chairmanship positions, while 362 candidates jostle for councillorship.
Okay, let's take a look at what happened over the weekend. We're doing a review of the area council polls here in the Federal Capital Territory. Normally we have, well, yes, we have just 6 of them, 6 area councils in the Federal Capital Territory. You know of one. Oftentimes, many people who come to visit Abuja think that where you see the sign, "Welcome to Abuja," is Abuja itself. But there's so many other areas. There's Gwagwalada, there's Buari, there is Kuje, Where you see the sign, welcome to Abuja, is AMAC. Yes, it's Abuja Municipal Area Council. So, but we have this morning able guests to discuss what happened, what transpired over the weekend. It is about the only area council, that's local government elections, that INEC conduct. So if we're to take this as a test of INEC's preparedness for off-season elections coming on later in the year, would we be able to say that INEC is ready? These are some of the questions we posed this morning. We have with us this morning Madam Eniobi, who is the convener of the Situation Room and also country director of Action Aid. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Festus Okoye is a National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education at INEC. You're welcome as well.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day to both of you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So let us start. Madam, you monitored the elections here. Let me use the word observe, because I know that there's a difference between monitors and observers. But you observed the elections here in the Federal Capital Territory. How prepared would you say that INEC was for the polls? Let's also look at the preparedness of the electorate as well.
I think the first thing to start with was the conflicting report or conflicting, statement by the police force. Because before we went to bed, there was a statement that came out from INEC from the police to say, from midnight to 4 p.m. there will be restriction of movement. And then before we went to bed, we had, the police force has relaxed the rules. And that came as a shock for us. Because how would you do that when you know that the normal rules in election is the restriction, and the restriction has the reasons why the restrictions. And then early in the morning again, we came up and they said there are restrictions, all from the police, because I had to make sure, before going to bed, I had to say, is this true or false? Is it fake news? Or somebody is trying to disrupt the elections? And then it came up and they said, it is true that people have been restricted and, or relaxed and then restricted and all. I think it started from there. The other is we deployed from Situation Room, we deployed to all the 6 area councils. In a few places, you had the INEC officials already on ground, at 7:30 in the morning. A number of places recorded that. But on the average, about 9:30 in the morning, deployment has happened in several places. So one will say that in few places, many people did not turn up. You also had the issue of relocation of polling units. People going to the polling units. There are many places where you have very few people waiting on the line. But again, you have even, close to that polling unit, you have 1,000 people. I think at the end of the day, I saw a lot of enthusiasm. Those who were out came out en masse, and they were able to go through the process. The process had challenges, but voting happened.
Mm. Well, if you look at the numbers of 1.3 million registered voters, we understand just roughly about 10% of that came out to vote. That wasn't very good, was it?
This is why we are asking, when we are asking the president to sign the electoral bill so that civic education can begin, we need a lot of information sharing. We need to be able to, INEC need to release a guideline on time so that we can really start. Now you have a FCT election, having about 10%. We're struggling from Anambra State the other day. You can see from Anambra, you always feel that Anambra people are low voters, in terms of if you look at the general elections. But today is not Anambra anymore. We're having the FCT. About 1.4 million people registered to vote. In some of the polling units where you had more than 2,000 voters, only about 157 turned up to vote. We even have cases where only one registered voter in a polling unit and nobody turned up and all of that. Again, that also showed that wherever INEC said they were going to deploy, they were able to deploy. Some of them may have come late, and that for me, and I saw the police, that's another thing, another angle to it. Early deployment of security agencies. The police were able to deploy. We saw them almost at 7:30, you had a lot of the polling units had the security people already. It's encouraging. We need the Electoral Act to be active. We need it to be assented to so that INEC can release their guidelines, so that they can start working assiduously, going with National Orientation Agency. We need to go to the communities to be able to educate the people. We need this, the continuous voter registration exercise. We need to take it seriously. If people are seeing that their votes count, like what we're seeing in the FCT election now, if they are assured that one vote won't count, they will go out there to cast their votes. But when they are not sure, when the government is also not paying attention by returning ordinary electoral, I would say ordinary, it has to do with lives, of course. It has to do with so much the progress that we make in democracy. But we are still struggling with assenting to a bill that will give more powers to INEC to organize. You know, so it's really, we cannot be toying with the Electoral Act. We cannot be toying with it. And now, people you can now see in the Federal Capital Territory, many people don't want to go out and vote, while others are suffering. And so I think we better take it very seriously. And we are delaying. Now, almost a deadline to assenting to that bill is coming just in a few days. You know, and the president, there is no statement from the president, you know, President Muhammadu Buhari, on the Electoral Act. What are we really, why are we toying with people's lives?
Well, we'll wait and see what the response will be from the presidency for that. But let me ask you, Mr. Okoye, what are some of the challenges that you faced as INEC for the FCT polls?
Well, as far as the commission is concerned, the FCT polls went on very peacefully, and it was well organized. And as you can see, from the beginning, from the time we conceived the idea of fixing the FCT polls for the 12th of February 2022, we carried all the stakeholders in the electoral process along. And all the things we did, we made sure that they were aware. For instance, from the beginning, we made some documents available to both political parties, civil society groups and organizations, and the media, relating to the fact that in 593 of the polling units that we do not have voters, and that we are not going to print ballot papers for those polling units, and we are not going to deploy staff. We also made it very, very clear that we have polling units that have between 1 and 1,000 registered voters, and then that we have some polling units that also have between 3,000 and 6,000 registered voters. And we did tell them what we are going to do in relation to some of these polling units. Now, on the Thursday before the election day, we went to the central bank with the representatives of all the political parties and retrieved all the materials to the INEC state office. From there, they accompanied these materials to all the 6 area councils. From the 6 area councils on Friday, they accompanied these materials to our super registration centers and to the racks. And they also accompanied these materials to the polling units on election day. Now, there were a few challenges relating to movement on election day. One, if we do not have the full complement of security agencies to accompany these materials to the polling units, we are likely going to delay to wait for them. Secondly, all of us know that there was also the challenge of fuel in the Federal Capital Territory on election day. Some of the transporters that we engaged took it for granted that there was going to be availability of PMS, and some of them did not buy fuel on time. And then some of them carried some of our officials to the filling stations on election day looking for fuel, only for them to be disappointed. So that accounts for the slight delay we have in very, very few polling units. But in almost all the polling units across the 6 area councils, the polls opened before 9:30, and so we are very, very happy with the level of deployment and with the professionalism displayed by the ad hoc staff that we deploy for this particular exercise.
But the numbers, I mean, the total numbers of voters at the end of the day, it's not very encouraging. And when you look at the total number of registered voters in the FCT, vis-a-vis the total number of people who came out to vote, is INEC concerned about the low voter turnout?
Yes, we are concerned about the low voter turnout in relation to elections across Nigeria. And the issue of low voter turnout is not peculiar to the FCT. But if you segregate the area councils, you will see that in some of the area councils we had high voter turnout, and in some of the area councils we have low voter turnout. AMAC has been known to be a chronic case of low voter turnout, especially on election day. Most people who live here, especially in AMAC, hardly go out to go and vote. They go and do some other things on election day. But in places like Buhari, in places like Kuje, in places like Gwagwalada and Abaji, you can see that the voter turnout is slightly high. But I believe that with some of the measures we've put in place, especially in terms of the new polling units we have created, the moment we populate some of these new polling units and then decongest the existing polling units, I believe that we are going to have a high voter turnout.
I believe that you're already looking at the why of the. That's why you're talking about the polling units.
Yes.
The congestion and polling units and creating new polling units.
Yes.
In addition to that, what else would you say you have found responsible for the low voter turnout in Abuja?
Well, if you are looking at the issue of low voter turnout, you have to attribute it to so many factors. There are people who really believe that whatever they do, when they go out to go and vote, that their votes will not count. And we have tried and tried and tried to make sure that all our processes are transparent and all our procedures are transparent. We have shown the Nigerian people that this present commission has the capacity and the courage to organize elections that are really, really transparent,
No,
and also elections that are very, very professional.
Have we been able to do any research, any poll to find out why? I know it might sound a little funny because INEC, which conducts a poll, now has to do a poll to find out why people are not coming out to vote.
Yes.
But I'm sure that, in many different areas, I mean, the reason why people might not come out in a place like Abuja, for instance, might be different from the reason why people might not turn out in Anambra, for instance. So have we been able to do any research to say, this is almost a perennial problem we notice. We've noticed that in some places, for instance, in AMAC, off the top of my head, I can give you a few hypotheses. But we've noticed that in places like AMAC, there's always a perennial low voter turnout. Places like Kuje, for instance, it's remarkably better. Yes. Have we been able to do any research so that we can address what the underlying causes of this could be?
Well, on a segregated basis, I'm not too sure. But on a nationwide basis, we have ideas on why we have some of these particular challenge. One, if you recall, for over 26 years, we had less than we had around 190-something thousand polling units. And some of these polling units were very far from places where people live. For instance, if you look at some of the new settlements, some of them had no polling units before. So people had to walk long distances or go to long distances in order to go and cast their votes. But we have created additional polling units to obviate that particular challenge. Sometimes people believe that the atmosphere at the level of our polling units is not conducive for the exercise of their democratic franchise, because sometimes you go to polling units, you find political talks holding sway, roaming all over the place. Some people go to the polling unit to go and vote and come back with broken scores, and some of them are maimed. So some people stay away. Then when you go to a polling unit and it's too congested and you spend the whole day in a polling unit trying to exercise their democratic franchise, there's a possibility that you may just keep away. Then there are also people who believe that government has not worked for them and that promises that have been made to them over the years have not really paid off. Some of them may simply keep away. So I think that both the Electoral Management Agency, the government in power, the opposition, civil society groups, and all the critical stakeholders have a responsibility to do their own bit. Political parties also have their own responsibility to mobilize voters to the polling units. But they want to leave everything to the Independent National Electoral Commission. They want INEC to do civic and voter education. They want INEC to go and educate people on the logos of political parties. They want INEC to even go and bring people from their houses to come and vote for them. And we are saying no. the main responsibility of political parties is voter mobilization, that they have a responsibility to mobilize voters to come out and vote. And they also have a responsibility to assure voters that those of them that are aspiring to positions of responsibility will also work for the voters when they get to power. So some of these factors accounts for the low voter turnout in Nigeria. But we are confident as an electoral management body that our elections keep improving on a daily basis, and that with some of the measures we have put in place and some of the technological devices we have deployed, that Nigerians are beginning to re-engage the electoral process, and they believe that when they vote, their votes will count. And you can see the enthusiasm across the 6 area councils after the Independent National Electoral Commission declared the results in the 6 area councils. It shows that the people have confidence in our ability to do the right thing, and we did the right thing in relation to the area council elections in the FCT.
I like your confidence. I really like your confidence. But we had a lot of challenges.
I was just about to say
well.
that. Do you feel as confident as he does?
No, not really, because we have to look at the realities that we met on ground yesterday. 2 days ago. We have to look at the issue of the beavers. We had a lot of problems, in the number of the polling units, and that was accountable to some of the frustrations and some people being disenfranchised if you were not patient. We had some of the polling units that you had almost 5,000 people on ground and ready to vote, and the beavers were misbehaving. In a few places, they were working very well. In a couple of places, they were working very well, but when you have a beavers that was, I think around 2,229 were deployed, and then you had some cases where it was not. I think INEC would need to focus, because it's like we are campaigning for the electronic system, to the technology to move on. We are seeing the improvement that is being made, but the beavers, there was a lot of complaints from the different area councils, and where it worked, it was like magic. And what we want to see is the beavers to perform like the duties. Some of them complained of being logged out, very frequently when you are almost capturing, there is a logout. And so we need INEC to get that together, because we know INEC has the capacity. And if these things are working, it's okay to move on, with all of that. But what we saw also was, people were, very enthusiastic. People were willing and waiting.
So he's right.
And there was a lot of, based on that, but it was frustrating for women who want to go back quickly and cook and all of that, waiting almost a whole day to win. It's a Saturday, and some of them, as at, there was a particular polling station, a polling unit that at 2:10, the beavers hadn't worked, but we escalated to INEC, and they deployed a technical team. And the people were patient to wait. When it started working, they voted. And I think the transparency of the system is not questionable. That is one of the things, that you can see whatever vote, whoever voted, that they were counted, they were also appeased. We saw a few places where there were hoodlums. There were some, what should I say, young people who were aggrieved and so on, waiting on the sideline. I remember one of the units that somebody came to me and said, if you look at my right, my left, you see some people with, they have knives and things like that. Of course, we had to let the security people know, and the security people were alert because we saw them and we interacted with them. Are you aware that this thing is happening? And they were we were happy that there wasn't further violence. We saw issues of vote buying. There were a number of places where there were issues of vote buying.
Vote buying in the FCT?
Vote buying in the FCT. In a particular unit, we heard they were mobilized to come and vote. They were given 1,000 each one to go, and they actually turned out and they voted. Many of them voted and went home, and they voted against the party that gave them, gave them the 1,000. So in a number of places, there were vote buying, there were digital issues that was going on. Can we really term
that vote buying? If they voted against the person that gave them 1,000
No, when we say vote buying, it's the attitude of the people, because it comes from the two ends. But so those ones, they decided to take the money and they voted against, they still voted for their conscience. But it's also dangerous to take the money and go in to vote. Another place we had, a politician who lowered, his glasses, came in a vehicle and was being led by the security and just threw money into the crowd. that resulted into shooting because the crowd became so much because they were struggling for money. And I think they should. This was in Buhari Area Council. You know, it was caught on tape, you know, as well. And there was a lot of, you know, struggle for the money. And somebody got really injured. And I think politicians should stop, you know, reducing Nigerians to beggars.
Should there be punishment for that?
You know, there should be punishment. We interacted with a lot of the police people, you know, and we told them, if you see somebody bribing, you know it's against the law, right? And we are not seeing arrests and things like that. Where they are, all of them say, no, if we see people, they were going to arrest people and so on and so forth. And so that was done in the periphery before you enter the polling unit. And that was how those people were not able to track whether this is going on or not. We also saw that people with disability, a lot of them, like, you know, where you had so many of them that are on the skates, you know, the cripples, you know, people with a lot of disability, the entrance in the first place was not quite friendly. And then you had the level of the polling unit, you know, of the poll of the, you know, the cubicle that was too high. And they had to bring them the document directly, and they were signing, you know, thumb printing, where in the face of other people, which was not, and I hope that has been sent to, the report has been sent to INEC, and I hope that in those areas where we had a lot of people, that next time you have to bring something that is more sensitive, you know, to the voters themselves. But on the whole, we can say that the election was peaceful, despite the anger of the people. The depopulation or the repopulation of the polling units needs to happen very fast, because we had cases in Gwagwalada, for example. You had this polling unit, you had about 1,000 people on the line. You had another polling unit, you had 4 people on the line, and that's 4 people accredited, you know, to that polling unit. And so there was a frustration of, well, why can't these people accredit us, you know? But because of the arrangement, that didn't happen. But I think we're moving forward. We hope we can progress more. We need INEC to work on the beavers. The beavers, a lot of disappointment again. And we thought at this time we shouldn't be going through that disappointment. And so we're going to the off-cycle election again. We're going to Ikuti and Osun very soon. We hope that there will be, you know, better management, you know, in terms of that. Let's not have, we knew in the FCT, for example, that there has been issues with the you know, PMS. We knew that. So we can't be having the reasons of saying, you know, vehicles. I think we need to work more with the trade unions. We need to work more with the road transport workers to say, if you have a squad, because we shouldn't be having that kind of problem when there's just the FCT. We should have had that arrangement, you know, and but the report by the police, we found a lot of queues. On a day where there should be restrictions, no arrest was being made because of the conflicting order given by the police.
Well, let's take a moment at this point. We'll be back shortly to continue this conversation. Please stay with us. Well, we're still talking about the FCT polls and how it went down on Saturday. Right here in the studio with us is Mr. Festus Okoye. He is from INEC. And we also have Madam Ene Obi, who is the convener of the Situation Room. I'll flip this conversation now to my colleagues in Lagos. I'm sure they have questions for them.
Thank you, Mokwe. Madam, let me begin with you on this particular conversation. You were talking about the beavers. And there are those who wonder just what the issue is. We've had stories before now where we said that you know, beavers worked so excellently well, but for us, you know, can I call it a smaller election like the local council elections? It's developed this. There are those who wonder, could this be some form of sabotage within?
Thank you very much. The beavers, when we went to Anambra, yeah, the election itself had issues. You know, there was a lot of issues with the beavers. And, you know, there was a lot of complaints because of the ad hoc staff that had to down tool at the last moment. And so INEC was under a lot of pressure, And where the beavers were not working, they later started working because we were raising and escalating, the reportage of what we were getting, the feedback we were getting from the field. And many of them eventually worked. In the supplementary election in Anambra, they deployed, the beavers that were deployed worked excellently well, and we're thinking that FCT will be a better election because the beavers, we shouldn't be having problem with the beavers. And so INEC is here. I think Festus will be in a better position to explain why the beavers are still having problems. And it was really a challenge. I think if many people know that if they just go in there and they're able to cast their votes, they will be more confident in going and making use of their time. But citizens also need to understand that participating in the democratic process is an obligation. For citizens to go and make sure that they cast their votes and make sure, because your vote is your choice. Your vote is also your voice, into the democratic process. A lot of disenchantment, is ongoing, and a lot of people don't feel belong. I think the question of trust is very, very major. But getting down into the beavers, I think it will be, we were not expecting the beavers to give us problems at this stage.
Well, we'll come to some of those issues, madam. Yeah, we'll come to some of those issues that you've raised, madam. So let me take that question to Mr. Okoye. Repeatedly, I mean, the beavers is supposed to be an improvement, an upgrade from the smart card reader and a number of other things that, the beavers promised according to INEC. So what are the issues, and why are those issues existent in the first place? Is it sabotage? Is it technical competence? Exactly what are the issues?
Let me just say right from the onset that the beavers is the albatross of chronic and unrepentant election riggers. Those people who in the past were housed permanent voters' cards that do not belong to them, and on election day, they keep on giving those permanent voters' cards out to people to go and use on election day, found out that those cards they have now have become completely useless. And some of them came to the polling units to make trouble. Now, I agree that there were challenges with the beavers in just a few of the polling units, because this is technology. In the FCT, for instance, we have a total of 2,822 polling units. And out of these 2,822 polling units, we did not deploy to 593 of the polling units that didn't have any registered voters in them. Now, I don't think it is fair, and I don't think it is just to just use the challenges in one or two polling units to make a generalized statement relating to the beavers in over 2,822 polling units. Now, part of the challenge the Commission had in relation to the beavers is the fact that we have some polling units that had over 5,000 registered voters. So in all those polling units that have over between 3,000 and 6,000 registered voters, we deployed additional beavers to obviate the challenges that people are going to have. Now, as we pointed out, when we were doing the continuous voters registration exercise, some of our people did not seize the opportunity to register in the new polling units. And the Commission did not want to disrupt the order in some of these polling units by doing what we call batch transfer. And that's why you still had some of the polling units having up to 5,000 registered voters. Going forward, the moment we are through, and we are through with these FCT area council elections, we are going to use the powers conferred on us by Section 42 of the Electoral Act to allot voters to these polling units. In other words, the Commission will carry out what we call batch transfer. But we are going to do this batch transfer in conjunction with traditional rulers and community leaders, civil society groups, and the media, and so on. Now, is it sabotage? Was there a problem with the beavers? There was no problem with the beavers. The beavers as a technological device worked very, very well in almost all the polling units. In a few of the polling units, some of the ad hoc staff that were deployed apparently did not pay good attention to some of the trainings they were given in relation to the workings of the beavers. And that was why we trained our registration area technical assistants and even our supervisors on how to troubleshoot the beavers and how to deal with challenges arising from the beavers. Now, some of our people, some of the voters, when they get to the polling unit, and are asked to put their fingers on the machine. The moment they do it once and it does not capture, they start agitation. They start making trouble. Some of them, when we want to capture their facials, and you ask somebody to smile, the person is so angry that the person won't even smile, and then there's a problem. So in some places, people cooperated very well. In some areas, people just did not want to cooperate. So what we are going to do going forward is to carry out intensive training and additional trainings for the ad hoc staff that operate some of these machines. And also, we need to do a lot of simulation to make sure that people understand the workings of the beavers. But in terms of the functionality of the beavers, in terms of the quality of the beavers, we did not have any problem with the beavers, and it worked excellently in so many of the polling units, and we didn't have complaint in most of the polling units in the FCT.
Well, Mr. Okoye, this is a bit tricky because you didn't have any problems. In the same breath, you said that, yes, you had some challenges. So I understand that, I mean, the beavers is a big deal to solving some of these, challenges we've had in the past. But it's important to be, very clear about the issues we're facing so we know how to resolve them. I mean, we have bigger elections coming, and then the big one, as we say, the 2023 elections. But quick things to clear out. First, must you smile to get captured by the beavers? Okay, I know you laughed, but I didn't hear your response.
You see, the technology is configured in such a way that you can use 3 or 4 methods to capture somebody's biometrics. One, our first procedure is that when you get to the polling unit, you need to we need to capture your fingerprints. If the machine captures your fingerprints, you are asked to go and vote. If your fingerprint has challenges, then we capture your facials. It's important because of the way we configure the beavers and because of the trick people play. Sometimes we ask you to smile in order for us to test whether you are really the person you claim to be. And then if we are not able to capture you, then the voters. The voters register has a QR code on it. We can use the QR code to also capture you to make sure that you are the person you claim to be. Now, if we do all these procedures and we can't see you and we can't capture you, the implication, as I pointed out severally, is that you are engaged in identity theft or you have come to the polling unit with a card that does not belong to you. When some people are asked to go away on the grounds that we have not seen them, we can't capture them, and that they are engaged in identity theft, they start making trouble. So I completely agree, and I say it pointedly, that in so many of the polling units across the 6 area councils, there was no problem with the beavers. In a few of the polling units, we have problems with the beavers because we anticipate that there's a likelihood that there may be problems.
Well,
and
Mr. Okoye, a lot of issues to actually clear out. Pardon me.
Those polling units.
Thank you. A lot of issues to clear out, so I'd like to take them quickly. So maybe the officials might need to tell people who say cheese as they want to capture them so they know that they need to smile. But, I mean, that's by the way. In terms of the functionality of the beavers, one of the issues that Yaga and stakeholders raised is the fact that, they noted that some trained ad hoc staff were substituted on election day just before deployment to the polling units. And, I mean, they believe that this may have affected the use of beavers. Imagine someone who had been trained, taken out and replaced with someone who had not been trained. Clearly, they'll have issues with the equipment. So how do you respond to that? Because clearly, tactically, that doesn't quite make sense to a lot of people.
Now, as an electoral management body, what we normally do is that if we require 12,000 ad hoc staff for the polling units, in terms of having 1 presiding officer and 3 additional assistant presiding officers for 1 polling unit, we train redundancies. In other words, we also train reserves so that if somebody does not turn up on election day, we will also replace that particular person. So what we normally expect ad hoc staff to do is that they must report to the super racks or the registration area centers at least by 5 p.m. on Friday, in order for us to give them refresher courses. So if at 5 p.m. An ad hoc staff has not reported, what the implication is that ad hoc staff has absconded or is not interested anymore in participating. Since it's voluntary, then we pull in the reserves that we have and then replace those ad hoc staff. There's a possibility that some of them did not pay attention during the trainings or did not really get interested, thinking that they know so much about the beavers and that they can manipulate it at any time. So some of them had problems in terms of using the beavers, and the moment they are unable to use the beavers in accordance with the protocols that have been established, they now say, oh, the beavers has problem, it has technical issues, and so on and so forth. We deployed 6 resident electoral commissioners to go and supervise the 6 area councils, and we also trained our registration area technical assistants to deal with some of these issues. And for each area council, we deployed additional 30 beavers to take care of any problem that may likely arise in any of the polling units. So when a problem arises at a polling unit, it is the responsibility of the presiding officer to call the supervisor or to call the RATEC. They have their numbers. So if you have that type of situation and you refuse to call in the technical people to come and rectify whatever situation you have, then the problem resides with you.
Okay, Mr. Okoye, so indeed, you're saying that you substituted these workers indeed. Is that what you're saying? Just to be clear.
No, we have a response. What I'm saying is that we train reserves in case any ad hoc staff does not turn up. If he or she does not turn up, we move in the reserves.
Okay. So you didn't have any untrained so you didn't have any untrained ad hoc staff replacing the ones that were trained. Is that what you're saying? Because Yaga believes otherwise.
No. What we normally do is that if we require 12,000 ad hoc staff for our polling units, we will train at least 13,000 of them or even 14,000, and then put some of them on reserve in case somebody does not turn up on election day. We pull in from the reserves we have and then replace the ones that did not turn up.
Okay, quickly, Mr. Okoye, this came up earlier on in the conversation, and I'd like to just quickly ask you pointedly. The non-signing of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, did it inhibit your performance, what you could have done better in this election?
Not in any way.
So you're saying that with the current law, you can do excellent election, whether this Electoral Act Amendment Bill is signed into law or not?
Well, as an electoral management body, our responsibility is to utilize the existing law and conduct our elections very well. We deployed professionally, and we trained our ad hoc staff, and then we collated the results. Nobody has raised any issue relating to the management of elections at the polling units, relating to the collation of results, relating to the announcement of results, and also relating to the uploading of the results of the elections into our INEC result viewing portal. So based on the existing law and with what we have, we conducted a good election.
Well, Mr. Okoye, just before I take this back to Ms. Obi, I just want to ask you, Mr. Okoye, in the event, has there ever been a case of sabotage against any member, any staff or ad hoc staff of INEC concerning the beavers? Is it something that anyone working, whether within, out INEC or on the field, can manipulate to whatever advantage? You said it earlier that beavers is the albatross of election riggers. So, and if it is easy to compromise anyone, it's something that might happen. So, is there any chance of that happening? And in the event that it happens, what does INEC do?
You see, the beavers, in relation to the beavers, the coordinates of each polling unit is imputed into a particular beavers. All the registered voters in a particular polling unit are imputed into the beavers. So the data of all the registered voters in a particular polling unit resides inside a particular beavers. And you cannot move one beavers from one polling unit to another polling unit because it will not work. So if a staff of the commission wants to sabotage an election, the staff has to sabotage the entire election, which is completely and absolutely impossible. So we don't have any issue of sabotage. Each BVAS is configured to a particular polling unit, and the data of the registered voters in a particular polling unit are inputted into the BVAS, and it is that data that will remain in that particular BVAS and no other data relating to the election.
Okay, let me just quickly ask one little question now as we close. We're waiting for the president to sign the Electoral Act. You have said that you can carry on with the electoral, with or without the electoral. It's your responsibility to do so. Madam Eniobi has also, asked that the Electoral Act be signed as quickly as possible. I'd like to know which expect anything to come out of our cards as currently is. The PVCs, I know that, INEC is always on a mission to get people to register. But for those who have registered and, people are fluid, they must move and are asking that this PVC be used, that INEC allows this PVC to be used anywhere. Are we going to see any innovations in that direction?
Well, the innovations the Commission embarks upon must follow the law. As of today, the law expects people to register in person. In other words, you cannot register by proxy. It also expects individuals to register in a particular registration area or in a particular polling unit. And it is in that particular polling unit where you are registered, where your PVC is domiciled, that you must vote.
So that is not going to change anytime soon?
No, if the law is changed, then it will change. But if the law is not changed, it cannot change because the Independent National Electoral Commission must defer to the National Assembly as the ultimate lawmaking organ for the Federation.
I want to say something before we close.
Yes,
I think Festus, is taking it maybe too far when they say it's only a few places that the beavers had problem. What we are giving is a feedback to the system that so many things, a number of challenges came up, and it needs to be tidied up before we go into the next election. So we are not just making comments because we want comments for comments' sake. We are worried that some of these things are happening, and we work as stakeholders. From the civil society, we try to monitor. We also try to make sure we're giving feedback directly to INEC, and some of the problems were resolved. And so we need to look at it as we come up to tidy up for the next election. What we want is free and fair, fair and credible elections. The BVAS is a beautiful machine. We feel that will help in terms of transparency and accountability in elections. It's really helping. And what you see here, though people may say, what is going on, this is going on, or that is going on, but they are not going to question the integrity of the BVAS. And that's why we're saying when it becomes electronic transmission of votes as well, before midnight, we all had the INEC portal was on. You're doing a great job, but you can do more. You need to do more, in fact. And in terms of education, we have the National Orientation Agency. We have civic education that is not being, played out. And then you have the National Pledge. You have all the politicians pledge to the National Pledge. How many people are violating, and what are the sanctions there? And so people want to believe in Nigeria. We need to all stand up right for Nigeria from all the perspectives, from all aspects where we are. We need to be able to account for ourselves in the nation, because this is a beautiful country and we need to be part of it and not give up.
It's an appropriate message for Valentine's Day. Thank you so much
Happy
for coming.
Valentine's Day to everyone.
Thank you. Only Mr. Festus Okoye is wearing a tie in the spirit of Valentine's. But I have to thank you both for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. NAOB is the convener, Situation Room, and also Country Director, Action Aid. And Festus Okoye is the National Commissioner, Chairman, Information and Voter Education at INEC. Thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's take a break now. We'll be back to talk about another issue very related to politics. Please stay with us. Okay, so we're turning our attention now to the upcoming convention of the All Progressives Congress. Well, we did see how long it took for them to be able to fix a date for February 26th. And then even when that date was picked, there were questions as to whether or not that date was going to hold. But we saw a categorical letter to INEC confirming that the convention was going to take place on the 26th of February. But now there are questions as to how the party is going to zone seats within its leadership. There have been some headlines in that regard, and there are questions as to whether or not the APC is going to be able to survive this convention on the 26th. We have with us this morning Mr. Ibrahim Modibo, who is a former member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, here with us, and Alwan Hassan is a member of the All Progressives Congress. Both gentlemen, you're both members of the same political party. Both of you are welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you, Magwe.
Let me start with you, Mr. Modibo. Do you exercise any fears about the upcoming convention on the 26th of February?
Thank you very much, Magwe, for inviting me this morning to share my thoughts on this fundamental issue of great importance, not only to our party, but to democracy at large in Nigeria. Now, looking at the APC as a political party, very formidable and a party to beat, the February 26th National Convention is sacrosanct. Everything, I think, is put in proper perspective because we've seen letters sent out to INEC, justifying that date as the proper date for the convention. Secondly, we've also seen, just last Friday, a 14-page pullout, of the revised edition of the Constitution, which was drafted by one of our seasoned lawyers, Professor Tahir. He headed the committee. But the major fundamental issue of great worry is, where are the zones? We are going into election, and they've started by today. As I'm talking to you now, I have from a very reliable authority that most distinguished senator and His Excellency Al Makura is on his way to the National Secretariat to go and buy his form. But my major concern is, where are the zoning formula? Are we leaving the whole thing open? A blanket statement that anybody can come in and contest? Or are we zoning the offices? As of now, that is where the confusion lies.
So there is no clarity on that as we speak?
As we speak now, I have not been able to get any authoritative, statement from the Secretariat identifying which states will get what, because under normal circumstances, we've seen the normal practice in our democratic culture. I have been in this political turf since 2001 as a director, and I think I know a lot about party politics. They should have been zoning by now to give us the focus and direction to which every zone will have representation. Because if you leave it open now, without mentioning where the zones are, does it mean that anybody can contest for any position? That means you can decide to bring up the whole ESCO from one state or one political zone. This is where the confusion lies. And I hope they'll be able to clear this air maybe between today and tomorrow so as to give focus and attention to us, the political class, where the zones are, who and who is going to contest for what, or which zones will produce what, so as to give an all-encompassing national cohesion. Because the area of convergence, and I think also the issue the issue that is of fundamental importance is that we must address issues based on national cohesion, integration, peace, and tranquility. Okay,
so let me ask Alwan, I know that your party did take great pains before now to skirt around the issues of zoning. I know that, because it gave the PDP, it would seem, some problems, and maybe they were trying to avoid that. But is this really a big deal for your party, the fact that, positions and slots have not been zoned ahead of a national convention?
It is a very big deal, and I think it's a deliberate act from Maimala Bune to destabilize the party. He doesn't want to go. Once there is a convention and a substantive NWC comes in, Maimala has ceased to be the caretaker chairman. He's enjoying it at the detriment of the party and the people in the country.
detriment.
Yes. He doesn't mind. He wouldn't mind killing the party in his own vested interest.
Those are very strong words.
I'm telling you authoritatively, seeing. Okay, let me ask you some questions, let me say some things that will make you know that this man does not want to go. Where are the subcommittees for proper organization of the next week's convention? Where are they? Who is he speaking to? When was the last time Maimala Buni sat with his caretaker 13-man committee? When? When was the last time he sat with them? We want to know. What are they planning? This is 2 weeks to convention. Nobody is talking with anybody. There should be subcommittee. 13 people cannot give us a convention. You have to have subcommittees for election on the day of convention. You have to have subcommittees for logistics. You have to have such subcommittees for mobilization. You know, these are the subcommittees that will properly organize the convention. It has not been announced.
So as we speak right now, it doesn't look like there are concrete plans on the ground.
Yes.
To make sure that the February 26th convention
and it's deliberate.
Is actualized.
Yes, and it's deliberate. He wants to cause chaos like he has caused in other states.
But there were a few lists that came out, even though the party asked that, you know, people discard those lists. There are those who keep saying that those lists are genuine.
You don't talk about it because the party said we should discard it. You don't talk about it, then it's fake. It's not confirmed. They came out clearly and said it's not confirmed, so we will not talk about it.
Why do you think organizing a convention is so problematic?
It's not a problem. It's not a problem. The problem is someone's vested interest is superseding the national interest. That is just it.
Is it possible that, how will I put it now, he's not exactly a substantive chairman, he's a caretaker chairman. Is it really possible that just his personal interest, do you think that there could be other, you know, powerful backers behind him?
Maybe another factor would be a weak Progressive Governors Forum that we have. Maybe, just maybe, because they look weak. No one is saying anything about it. Do you understand? So this is the main factor, actually. And if you look at all these things, Maupe, it's not a joke, but they take it to be a joke, trying to push themselves and allow him to stay and conduct presidential primaries.
Do you have a problem with Maimala Buni?
How? I was on this platform defending the same person just a few months ago. And if he does good tomorrow, if Maimala becomes nicer tomorrow, I will come here and supporting my party. Yes, I was one of his lead guys that hit our chest for him. But he has failed. He has failed. I'm telling you, he has.
Have you been able to see him to ask questions as to what challenges he has?
He doesn't see people. The 14 state assembly members of Edo State tried to see him. He refused to see them. They came to my office, Baopi. They went to see the secretary, and he told the secretary of the party to tell them to defect to the PDP, that go and follow your governor. That was what he told them. Is this man thinking well?
Okay. Well, let me quickly ask you. I know that you've always had supportive words for the current caretaker chairman of the APC, but it does look like you have your own doubts now with this zoning issue.
Yes, let me correct this. Just a small issue that I want to correct. My brother Alwan here is talking about the issue of committees. I also asked about that fundamental issue because for any convention to hold, there must be committees that will be set, logistics, media, organization, everything. There should be an organogram where committees will be formed for the purpose of the convention. However, based on my findings, I was made to understand that by this Friday, the committee is going to come out. They form the committees, waiting for the committees to be brought out on Friday, God willing. This
a week
Friday.
Before convention.
Yes, before convention. But I want to look at the issue of our great party. To me, this convention is sacrosanct. Whether anybody likes it or not,
you didn't quite answer my question as to whether or not you're still supportive of him. But we'll come back and tackle that a little bit
I
We'll
was
come
just,
back and
that could
tackle
have been a
that.
disservice now, Maope. If
Just
he's
a
supporting
moment.
what Maimala is doing, it is a disservice to the party.
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to hold your peace for a while. We'll have to take a break now. We'll be back shortly, and you'll be allowed to say what you want to say. Please stay with us. Well, we're still talking about the upcoming APC convention that's supposed to hold on the 26th. The affairs that all is not looking like it's set for that convention, even though there are those who say that the date is sacrosanct. How is that going to happen? Mr. Modibo, you were just about to tell us that I think you said by Friday the subcommittees will be released, but they will just have a week. He was just observing that it will be a week. And these committees will have to work before the 26th. How is that going to be possible?
Well, as you stated earlier, I have a lot of respect and sympathy for the extraordinary caretaker convention committee under Maimala Buni. I am a very realist and an optimist that I think things will change. Hopefully, let us look at the positives. The point of convergence, and I think we are having a common this with my brother, along the line of seeing that peace, progress, and prosperity of this party comes on board. He's very optimistic. He's a very passionate person, very compassionate on the issue of direction to which this party is moving.
Optimistic? He sounds pretty upset to me about how things are being organized within the party.
It is because of his patriotic and nationalistic intervention or conviction about the party politics. That is why he's very passionate. And I too. But all I'm saying here is that, you see, this party, this convention is sacrosanct. Whether anybody likes
I understand.
It or not,
I mean, you've said that over and over again.
Yes,
what I'm saying is the fears that he has raised right now.
Yes.
He's said it without any equivocation that he doesn't seem like the national caretaker chairman has the interest of the party at heart.
No, he has. If he doesn't have, he wouldn't have brought in a lot of governors that have defected, senators and all that. And even more are coming maybe after the convention immediately.
Yes,
so,
but the questions as to how he's putting together this convention.
No, let me tell you. You see, I strongly want to believe that unlike, to debunk maybe what skeptics feel, you know, a lot of people prior to this point in time were skeptical about the sincerity of Maimala Buni, seeing that the convention has just been shifted, always shifted.
From 6 months.
And that became a major albatross towards the peaceful cohesion and integration of the party. But thank God, as it is today, this convention is sacrosanct, as I've stated. It will come to hold. It will come to pass. Whether they do it 2 days or 3 days, let them form the committees. If they form the committees, my major concern is the zoning formula. Let the zoning formula be made so that we know where the party chairman will come from, and also we know where the presidency is going to come from. As it is today.
If 2 weeks before your convention, the zoning formula is not yet out,
and forms are being sold,
would you still say that the party caretaker chairman has the interest of the party at heart?
No, maybe even today it can come out, because what does it take to zone? Maybe they've already done it, but I want to believe that for us to have peaceful cohesion, integration, and that force to move as a political party that is ready to capture power again in 2023, we must stamp our feet of authority on the conduct of our own congresses. The conduct of congresses in sine qua non to what the party is going to face in the days to come. And I strongly believe that the zoning formula should have been addressed to North Central, so that if we have a North Central chairman of a party, then it's likely we'll have a Southern president. I support fully for peaceful conduct, for national cohesion, national integration, and also for party politics, so that all of us will aggregate ourselves towards having a viable and vibrant political system. We must have at least that zoning formula where at least when we get a Southern candidate, I will be very happy to see our party produce a candidate from the South this time around, so as to balance the political equation.
So you already have your own preferences and you have ideas as to how you think the party should zone it.
Yes.
But we're yet to see anything. Are there permutations, Owen, in terms of how the party should, in what areas the party should be looking to zone its political positions?
Let me address something he said first before answering your question. Maopi, he spoke about the state congresses. Every crisis that is happening today in the states were created by Mai Mala Buni. From Ogun to Kano, Sokoto to any other state you go to. He sent 2 committees to conduct state congresses in Ogun State. One for Senator Amosun, one for the governor. Tell me if there is anything more chaotic than that. He sent 2 committees to Sokoto. One for Wamako, one for the other faction. He cooked every issue.
You have that information?
Yes.
Credibly?
I have friends. Yes, he knows I have. And I'm speaking on the national TV. He did. He intentionally wrote to courts when the Shekarau faction went to the courts. He intentionally told his legal department to write to the courts that the national body only recognizes the faction of Shekarau. Is that not chaotic? With a sitting governor, it is now, you are now sitting to negotiate. Couldn't he have done that before writing such letter to the courts? What are we talking about, Maopi? Is this a decent pace?
Well, you certainly have your issues with the
It is not issues. My issues are the party has been strangled by evil forces. Yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you in terms of the zoning.
About zoning,
Yes.
I'll answer you. If we are to learn with the events of the past, no state with an APC governor should be given the party chairmanship for what has happened in Edo State. So if you're zoning it to North Central, make sure it is not Kwara, it is not Kogi, it is not Niger, it is not Nasarawa State. Why? Because they have APC governors. If you're giving somebody from those states chairman, you're going to cause problems in that state, and we might end up losing another state.
Okay.
And if you're taking it to Northeast, you make sure you don't give it to those states that have governors as APCs. You can go to Adamawa. We have good guys like Sonima Monidafe from the Adamawa State. In Benue, in North Central, we have Akume. You can pick those guys and give them. Akume is a party man. He can manage this party.
You already have your candidates, it will say.
Not having candidates. I'm just giving you options.
Well, both of you are both looking at North Central. If there's any common ground here that I can find, let me quickly flip this to my colleagues in Lagos. I'm sure they also have questions for you. Gentlemen.
Well, absolutely, Mark, but thank you very much. And you can really hold, do I say tension, really, from Mr. Alwan Hassan and how he feels towards the party. But I just wonder, do you think it's fair to say that he created all the problems we're seeing across the state, saying that those issues actually predate the 2019 elections, predates when he became the head of the CECP. So do you think it is fair, because he didn't create the rancor we've seen across those states, the splits? That was, except you say that was his thinking or his doing as well. So do you think it's fair to say that he created those problems when a lot of them actually started way before the elections?
Kayode, you conducted state party congresses, and you know there are issues in the state, for example, like Ogun. You know that Senator Ibikule Amosun has issues with the present governor. And you decide, as the party caretaker chairman, to send 2 different committees. One to Senator Ibikule Amosun, one to the sitting governor of Ogun State. Is that not the creation of problems? Do you want me to define what problems are? Is he trying to manage the issues he met, or he's trying to escalate them?
Okay, I just wanted you to clear the word create. Create means, he started it. And as I said, now you would agree clearly that these problems actually started before 2019 elections, before he became the head of the CECPC. But I'd like you to, I'd like us to defer to your party constitution, which will naturally, guide all the activities within your party. Seeing the build-up to this convention, what section or what provision in that constitution would you say the CECPC is breaking with its conduct regarding zoning, formation of those subcommittees for the convention? What section would you say they are breaking?
It is not about section of the Constitution. It is about a proper planning, Kylie. It's not about section. We are 2 weeks to the convention, and there are no subcommittees to properly manage and organize the convention? You're going to sell forms today. You want to start selling forms today, and you don't have a zoning arrangement? Who is buying what? The president had approved since last year, November, the rotational offices from the south to the north and north to the south in the NWC. And you still can't come up with the zoning arrangement, speaking to stakeholders every day? Is that proper? Suddenly you came out with a constitutional amendment yesterday that a committee sat and wrote without consulting stakeholders. We haven't seen them called caucus meeting, and you are releasing it out. And you want to ratify that amendment at the day of convention. Is he not trying to cause crisis? Go through the amendments and see. Is he not trying to cause riots? What are we talking about, Coyote?
There's a popular saying that I'm very sure you are aware of, which is something that Coyote has also mentioned earlier. A tree does not make a forest, so there has to be some collusion here and there. So let me ask Mr. Municipal this one. Well, there is something that the president had said, I don't know, not too long ago, that, well, literally a warning to the APC that if you do not put your house in order, if this disunity in the party continues, the APC will lose massively in the coming elections. What, in your opinion, should happen before this convention in order to ensure that that disunity does not scatter whatever progress the convention is intended for?
Well, using any parameter of democratic process, my brother, the APC is set. And I think in the interest of party democracy and cohesion, this is a party that has internal mechanisms for conflict resolution. And I strongly believe that there's possibility of us, whatever and current situation we might have, I've always been maintaining that the political party is not a Moscow church where you go and sit quietly. There must be divergence of views. But the common consensus that we are supposed to have is towards peace building, prosperity, and progress of the party and the nation at large. But before then, let me have a divergence of views with my brother Arwan about the chairmanship of the party. The chairmanship of the party should not, I do not disagree that it should not come from states that we have governors. Like Al-Makura, if you've seen, he got the blessings of his governor, and this is a man that has experience. He was a youth leader in Plateau State under MPN. He was a governor, a senator, somebody that has been able to build a profile. A person that has governed the state very well, and he has done very well for the people and for the general progress and prosperity of the state. And I have the strong conviction that a person of that magnitude, based on the feelings of the people and also based on the media approach and the kind of people that have been aggregating opinion about what the chairman should be, I think he's shoulder high among all the rest of the contestants. I agree. Mr. Soni Monidafe is a very competent person. Most of the people that have come out to look for chairmanship of the party, they are very competent. But there must be somebody, an arrowhead, and I think Al-Makura should provide the answer.
Well, Mr. Municipal,
let me go back to your question.
Okay. Go ahead, because I was going to draw you back to the fact that, look, all of these lofty things you have talked about, will there be a light at the end of the tunnel if there is such strong disunity in the party?
You see, the disunity is what unites us together. I strongly believe that as a political party, the APC has internal mechanisms of conflict resolution. And all of us that we're talking about this party are passionate. We have this patriotic feeling about this party.
I'm sorry, Mr. Municipal. My sincere apologies. I have heard in unity we stand. Are you saying in disunity the APC stands?
You see, the APC are symbolized by the broom. It is a very cohesive and coherent political party. You can see how the broom is. You can't swim with one broom. It is a combination of brooms or this thing. That's why the symbol of broom is there.
With a touch of umbrella.
Therefore, we strongly believe that APC as a political party despite the problems here and there that is created, despite the problems that we have in different states and what have you, it is what makes political tick. It is the beauty of democracy. It is one of the tonics, as far as I'm concerned.
What makes this a little confusing and disturbing, Mr. Modibo? My sincere apologies again. What makes this a little confusing and disturbing is that the APC is the ruling party at the federal level and has a significant number of states. So to see the level of fractions within the party, and you're still talking about it being as united, though disunited, it's a little troubling. But let me ask Mr. Hassan. So this is where we are now. In the build-up to the convention of the party, I'm sure all of the things you're saying, you're not saying maybe out of dislike or anything. You're saying because you really want things to go the way it ought to go. For you, what are the things that needs to happen urgently to unite the forces that will meet at that APC convention in order for the expected outcomes to be achieved?
It's left for him to take on the responsibilities he was appointed for, Ayo. If he decides to do it, he can.
Are you saying, my sincere apologies, Mr. Hassan, one of the things, just a second, we said earlier, and Kade referenced it, that look, one person cannot do it all. There are at least 36 state chairmen in the parties, and there are governors in all of the states, APC governors all over the place that govern affairs. What are the things that members of the party must do? I don't recall the president saying that it's the national chairman that has to foster this unity, that this unity will break up the party and cause the loss of the party. I don't think that's something that only the chairman of the party can do. So for all those who are critical stakeholders in the party, what are the things that they need to do?
All hands must be on deck, but a political will has to come from the party chairman. He was appointed to reconcile. He has ended up dividing us the more. As it stands today, APC is at its lowest. A comrade Adams Oshomole cannot stoop this low. The party is at its lowest. Whosoever becomes the chairman tomorrow, we must rise. And just as Mr. Ibrahim is saying, that the date of convention is sacrosanct. Yes, it is sacrosanct because the president is committed in giving us the convention. And whatever it is that the Maimala chairman, whatever it is Maimala is doing, he's doing that to bring shame to the president. And we know it, and we will defend it. We defended the president and stood by him all through, and we'll still do it.
Well, I asked earlier if any of the things that the CECP is doing is unconstitutional, at least from the party's constitution's point of view, and you said no. So this will sound more personal than it is of a constitutional issue and all that. And that's what it might come across as, except you otherwise say, well, there's a constitutional provision that is broken.
Let me tell you something, Kayode. You're talking about if it's constitutional. If Maimala Buni decides to escape doing a convention, giving us a convention next week, his plans are to conduct the presidential primaries. And the presidential primaries are not conducted until you conduct a gubernatorial primary throughout the state, the 36 states. So it means Maimala Buni wants to give himself another ticket of a second term in Yobe.
Well, interestingly, you said if.
To conduct the presidential elections.
Interestingly, you put a conditional word there.
Does
you
that
said
sound
if.
right? Do you think it's constitutional?
Well, you said if, so it's still a conditional statement. You said if it doesn't hold.
But that is his plan. Those are his plans, Kayode. I'm telling you his plans.
Well, clearly you have an inkling into the inner workings of the CECPC. But let me take this to Mr. Modibo as we wind down on this. So clearly you are being carried along, it would seem, as well. But Mr. Modibo, Mr. Hassan raised an issue about the Constitution Amendment. And, I mean, seeing the name of the committee, it's a Convention Planning Committee and Caretaker Committee. There's no convention, there's no Constitution Amendment in that mandate. So do you think that the committee really has that mandate or is right to amend the Constitution at this time, just days to the convention?
You see, under any democracy or democratic culture, the issue of constitutionalism is something that is never static. The world over, constitutions are meant to be reviewed. It could be by anybody, including the caretaker committee. So if it is reviewed to test the rhyme and rhythm of the yearning aspiration of the political party, so be it. So it is not as if this caretaker committee, going even by the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, it has the full backing of the law. In the case of Jegede against the governor of...
it has the full backing of the law to be a caretaker committee. That's what you're making.
Yes, and also to make laws.
I don't think anyone has challenged that.
No, nobody has challenged it.
The question is about the review of the constitution of the party, if it has the mandate to do that.
Yes, the thing is, constitution is something that is
But you
flexible.
must speak with stakeholders.
Yes.
You must call caucus meeting before bringing it out.
I agree.
He's bringing it out deliberately to cause chaos.
Let me
we know this.
Let me learn. You see, I agree with you that there should have been consultation, but I strongly also believe that constitution as it is something that is flexible, that should be amended anytime to suit the tempo of the political rhythm.
So as we speak right now, you've just said that the subcommittees of the planning committee will be out this Friday.
Yes.
That's the message that you have,
yes.
or that's the word that you have.
Yes.
How confident are you that given that they will just have about a week to the convention, that the convention itself will be a success?
You see, I'm an incurable optimist. I strongly believe in party unity and cohesion. And let me tell you, without any fear of contradiction, that this thing, let me reiterate again for the nth time, that this convention is sacrosanct. It must go on. Whether we like it or not,
will it be successful?
Because the president is firm on it.
Yes, I agree.
Will it be successful?
Of course it will.
You are optimistic that it will be?
I am very optimistic that with the kind of... I have not seen the committees yet. I have not seen, but it will definitely come on Friday.
Okay.
God willing. And therefore, I want to believe that as a political party, we want to see to the progress and cohesion of this party. We are all together.
We're totally out of time now. Awan, are you optimistic as well? Are you as optimistic as he is?
Yes.
That if the list should come out this Friday, you still have a chance of having a successful convention?
We do, Maupi, even if it's going to be without a proper planning. We will still have the convention because the president is committed to that.
Will it be successful?
It should be successful because the leader of the party is respected and he's the person to unite everybody. That's the president.
Okay, we'll wait to see how it eventually pans out. They say Friday is the date that they'll see the release of the names of the subcommittees for the planning of the convention, which will hold on the 26th of February. See how things eventually goes in the leading party, the party that is at the helm of affairs in the country. Thank you so much for coming on, gentlemen. Ibrahim Modibo is a former presidential APC campaign counsel, and Alwan Hassan is a member of the All Progressives Congress. Well, we have a few mails now. I've seen this one from Henry Ewunonu, who's talking about FCT elections matters arising. He says, kudos to INEC, the very tolerant people of the FCT and the civil society for the success. Beavers failed in almost 50% of places. Some electoral offenses were committed in full glare of security officials. Voter apathy is spreading wider despite attempts to awaken the people to exercise their rights. Do these have solutions? Can we say never again? We should, because we can.
Oh, take a look at this tweet from Ofudadi. That's the handle there. It says, I feel so bad that out of over 3.6 million residents of the FCT, only 33,000 came out to vote. That's about 0.9% of the inhabitants. That's really sad. The voter apathy is something that we need to look into because we can't continue like this.
Festus Akimboyewa says the setback witnessed in the FCT area council election where INEC equipment malfunction, however, beg your pardon, how INEC equipment malfunction showed there is no technology available that can meet the unique risks and challenges of delivering our elections faster and encourage more people to come out to vote.
And HK Eze has this. We must begin to think about staggered elections for 2023. Smiling should not be a requirement for authenticating voters unless you inform them beforehand. If training is a challenge, improve your training. Don't blame your staff. Well, smiling might not be a thing for the beavers, but please, smiling should be a thing for every day, especially today, which is Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for watching this beautiful Monday morning. I'm Maokwe Yusuf.
After all, a smile is free. There's no doubt about the love we have for our viewers, by the way. So thank you for always allowing us to be a part of your morning. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And if that's the only gift you are giving today, please give it generously.
Do better.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.